What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my banner review and builds guide for the Attuned Timerra Aided Reginn banner featuring Merrin and also Fogado, and we have got Pandreo as the quest reward. So I'm going to be covering all of them and how you can use the fodder that they've got. So let's start with the start of the banner in Attuned Timerra. So she's a lance infantry unit with Desert Spear as her preferred weapon. This is a -1 special cooldown distant counter weapon, which is really good because it frees up her Slot A and Sacred Seal, and then she has got the Bulwark effect built into her weapon. So this is one of the underrated effects in my opinion because it can be really annoying to face in summoner duels, and it can be amazing to use in Aether Raids offense as you can prevent your backline units from getting sniped. So this is really good for an Omni tank. And she is not just an Omni tank but also a bit of a supportive unit. So she's going to be giving the allies in 3 spaces the +4 speed and defense in the combat, and also 10 flat damage reduction only versus foes damaging specials. So this can be really good for tanking with other units, and especially if you stack this up with Seteth, then you could have a lot of flat damage reduction, and any kind of modern unit is going to be having quite a bit of unpierceable damage reduction. So just stacking up all of that is going to be resulting in better tanking. So this is the support that she's able to provide, which is quite unique. And then for herself in the combat, she's able to get extra stats depending on 5 plus her 15% of the visible defense. So this can give her a lot of extra stats, and then for herself as well, she has got the 10 flat damage reduction versus foes damaging specials. And then she has got the dull all on the foe in the combat, which means that she ignores any kind of visible buffs of the enemies. She also has Sandstorm as her exclusive special, which is going to be helping her tank better. So it's a 4 cooldown special, but with her weapon it's 3 cooldown, and then with Time Pulse Echo it's a 2 cooldown special that she can immediately retaliate back with because of Lagoose Friend and its special jumping. So Sandstorm is going to be giving you damage equal to 80% of her defense like Ignis, and for the damage output it is going to be using 150% of her defense instead of her attack. So this definitely makes it a lot better because she has got quite low attack stat, and then she has got some unpierceable damage reduction, which is going to be depending on the current special cooldown count multiplied by 10 and then subtracted from 40. So with Lagoose Friend, the special jumping and everything, you're going to be having 40% unpierceable damage reduction on the first hit of the enemy, and then if you fail to kill them and if they double you, then you're going to be getting 10% unpierceable damage reduction on their double. So Timerra really does not want to get outsped, and she wants to double everything and kill them with her Sandstorm. And this special also has the frozen effect, so it is going to be comparing her defense to the enemy, and it is going to be making it easier for her to make a follow-up attack and making it harder for the enemy to follow-up attack. But it's worth noting that this frozen effect is capped at 10, unlike some reads frozen. So that is going to be making a difference, but this is definitely good for tanking. And like I said, she does not want to get doubled whatsoever. And this is also going to be giving her more unpierceable damage reduction. She doesn't really have any kind of damage reduction in her weapon, but this pretty much makes up for it. And she has got really high defense at base 47 with a super boon, and really high speed at base 47 as well. But she has got one of the lowest attacks for any kind of modern unit at base 34, which is just diabolical because last time we got base 34 attack on a non-dancer unit was all the way back in book 6 when Princess Naina came out, and she was a demote healer. And before that we had Elamine, who is just a support unit, so she's going to be relying heavily on her special Sandstorm to do a lot of damage, because without it she's really not going to be doing much and a lot of things are going to be surviving. And her resistance is a bit higher than a lot of the other Omni tanks, so base 31 is pretty nice when she has got distant counter built into her weapon, and you could definitely stat stack a bit more on her. And because she's an attuned unit, she does come with Time Pulse Echo, so this is pretty much Time Pulse 4, so it gives you the special looping, and this also helps you trigger your specials a lot more easily. So this is a really strong attuned skill, but just like Time Pulse, it is going to be restricted to the infantry units. And when you're going to be foddering Timerra, you're not going to be able to pass on all of her premium skills at the same time. You'll have to pick between either Lagoose Friend 4 with Time Pulse Echo or Breath of Life 4 with Time Pulse Echo. So we don't really have version 3 of Lagu's Friend all that easily, and if you really have to make the choice, then I would suggest you go with Lagu's Friend 4 and Time Pulse Echo. The reasoning is that Breath of Life 4 is available on 2 normal summon pool units in Edward and Brave Alphonse, and Lagu's Friend is only available on limited time units, and one of them happens to be one of the most broken units and an Emblem hero. So Lagu's Friend is going to be the higher priority in my eyes, and you can also use her to duplicate other skills, but like I said, if you're going to be passing Time Pulse Echo and Lagu's Friend, it is going to be taking up all 5 of the inheritance slots. So now let's take a look at what kind of units you want to give her fodder to, and especially Time Pulse Echo. So one of the main recipients of this is easily going to be Nurgle. He's one of the best units in the entire game, and Lagu's Friend 4 is amazing on him for the extra bulk, and he's one of the few ranged units who can easily tank the melee foes, so this skill just makes it better. And then you could just run Time Pulse Echo with an Emblem Ike build, so it can pretty much be the best attune skill that he has got, and you also get Lagu's Friend at the same time. You could also run this on many of the units that don't have a -1 special cooldown weapon, and they're trying to use something like Gust with Emblem Ike. So to make the full use out of it, you're going to be needing Time Pulse Echo, and that frees up your slotsy so you could run Breath of Life 4 and other options. And like I said, this could be applied to any kind of other infantry unit who wants to tank with Lagu's Friend and they want to use Gust or stuff like Dragon's Roar and they don't have a -1 special cooldown weapon. Na is an example of Dragon's Roar usage, so it opens up your slotsy to use something like Even Res Wave D, which gives you the Scowl effect. So she doesn't have a -1 special cooldown, and she's in the Hall of Forms, so if you're trying to completely max invest in her, then this is going to be the attune skill that you want to go for, and then you're able to make use of Emblem Ike, and you can also run this on a lot of the AoE nukes. So the thing with Time Pulse Echo is that a lot of times you want to give this to the player phase units, and they don't really want to have Lagu's Friend or even Breath of Life 4. So you probably got to give some other skills to Timerra so that she can pass off to these nukes. And Nabata Gren is definitely one of the better AoE nukes in the game, if not the best one, because she has got the extra utility with the extra movement, and she can also AoE nuke really well with her high attack stat and the pulsing that she has got. So this frees up her slotsy skill to run Failed Smoke 4, or even Canto Control for something like Summoner Duels usage, and you could also run this on Attune Nino. Now she's not really as insane as Nabata Gren, but this allows her to free herself from running Emblem Marth or Quicken Pulse as the Sacred Seal, and that is going to be one of the highlights of Time Pulse Echo. It allows you to run some other Emblem unit maybe in the future, and it doesn't really lock you down with Emblem Marth. So that is definitely one of the best things about it, and with her slotsy skill and Time Pulse Echo, she's instantly able to have an AoE special ready, which can be really nice, and I do like using her quite a lot in Summoner Duels S. Nino is also one of the rare units that can run Time Pulse Echo with her preferred skill because she's an attuned unit, so attuned and rearmed units can run the other arcane and attuned skills, so that's worth keeping in mind. And you could easily AoE loop any kind of infantry unit with their -1 special cooldown weapon with just Emblem Marth, so you don't even need Special Spiral 4, and you could just run Time Pulse 4 in the slotsy, which is going to be stacking up with Time Pulse Echo perfectly well. So this way you're able to loop your AoE special and pre-charge it, and with something like Arcane Euphoria giving you the true damage on your AoE specials, you're able to AoE nuke pretty well. Just like Time Pulse 4, Creation Pulse also has good synergy with Time Pulse Echo, but it does need a bit of setup because you need the negative status effect on the enemy to get the pulse effect out of Creation Pulse, and Fallen Julia is easily one of the best users of it, so she doesn't have a -1 special cooldown weapon, and again this frees you up from running Emblem Marth, so you could run Emblem Celica instead and get the extra damage and the warping, and you're able to easily trigger Flare, and she already gets the negative status effects with her Weapon Refine, so it's a pretty good combo. And you could also run this on many of your Gale Force units like Garrick for example, and he's easily one of the best Gale Force support units in the entire game because of his pulsing from his weapon and also the debuff neutralization status that he's able to give out. So you can easily run this and have a 2 cooldown Gale Force, which you're able to trigger with Flash Barrow and the Null Guard in his Weapon Refine. Now even though you're not going to be looping something like Gale Force, Time Pulse Echo is still good to have for its knee shell pulsing. You could also run this on the original Edelgard because she is a really good AoE nuke. Now we do have Brave Felix, who is pretty much a lot better and the best AoE nuke with the extraction, but if you want to use Edelgard, then she could be used with Double Fury build for Aether Raids offense, and you could fall into the Wings of Mercy 4 range, and now you're able to run Emblem Celica if you run Infantry Pulse 4 and Time Pulse Echo with Asgore in your team, so it pre-charges your AoE special and you can warp and get the initial combat done. And as we're talking about Aether Raids, if you're a hardcore Aether Raids player, then you probably use Asgore Trio like me in their bonus season, and you don't really have the other choice because you already have your core mythics and you're not going to be pulling on every single banner for the bonus units. So in that case, if you're trying to fully invest in your Asgore Trio, then they could be run for the ideal Gale Force builds on your Gale Force team, so they could just have 1 cooldown or 2 cooldown Gale Force with these kinds of builds. And if I had the resources, I would definitely do this because I use them so much and I don't really have a choice for Aether Raids, so just making them better Gale Force units would definitely help me quite a lot. Coming back to Attuned Timerra, she's easily going to be one of the better Omni tanks in the game because of the unpierceable damage reduction and how she's able to use Lagu's Friend for the flat damage reduction. But she does have some really obvious weaknesses like to the Hush Spectrum and Scowl effects, which are going to be annoying her quite a bit. And if we get more units like Fogado who can disable the special of the enemies, so just watch out for them. And unfortunately for Timerra, she works quite similarly to Emblem Ike in the way that she depends a lot on her special, even more so than Emblem Ike because Timerra does have lower attack stat. So the things that counter Emblem Ike are also going to be countering Attuned Timerra. So they're going to be countering him eventually, but the good thing is that at least Timerra has got some unique supportive niche with the flat damage reduction that she can give out against the foe's special. So at least she's going to be having that, even if they try and counter the ways to trigger your special. And if you're going to be building up Timerra, then you want to run something like Null Follow-Up because she lacks that in her weapon. So you could try and outsource this, but you could also run that as a Sacred Seal. And the best emblem for her is going to be Emblem Ike, which does make sense because she's from Solm. And this is going to be giving you even more unpierceable damage reduction. So it's really good to have. And I prefer having plus speed IV on her because, like I said, she does not want to get doubled whatsoever, so plus speed should be your priority. And if you're going to be spending a full red on her, then obviously go for her defense. And if you're trying to counter Scowl, then Creation Pulse is a pretty good tech option that you could try and run, and this allows you to get the special jumping to counteract Scowl. And you could also run Null Counter Disrupt Echo as her attune skill, even though we don't really have that many like meta relevant sweep units because Dual Leon has died after Breath of Life 4 and stuff. So if you're trying to use something like this in Aether Raids, then it could work out, and you could always give her the Breath of Life 4 support with some other unit, so that can work out. And the special jumping allies like Aided Reginn are also a really good teammate for her if you don't want to run Creation Pulse. And this kind of build will require some team building because for Creation Pulse to work, you need to have the negative status effects on the enemy. So do try to pair her up with some of those allies, and it's not really all that hard to do as we have got a lot of debuffing units. Aided Reginn brings a new hero type with her as the Aided Heroes, and also a new item in Aide's Essence. So let's take a look at that first and see what it does. So even though Aided Heroes are going to be coming on the banners with rearmed and attuned units, unlike them, they're going to be vanishing from a barracks if you fodder them. And Aided Heroes already come with +1 to all of their stats, so you're not going to be able to use Aide's Essence on them. And Aided Heroes are unfortunately not going to be in the normal summon pool despite their relatively low value compared to rearmed and attuned units, which also have the same rarity. And every single summoned copy of an Aided Hero is going to be giving you Aide's Ascents as the item, so that's a bit unlike something like Ascended Floret, where you only get it on the first copy of your Ascended Hero. And every Aided Hero is going to be coming with a unique Aide accessories. So Reginn comes with her Nidavellir technology, drone, and Aide's Ascents is the item which can give +1 to all stats of a unit, and these are going to be the visible stats, so any of your skills which count the visible stats are going to be able to make use of this. But it's not that big of a change because +1 to all of these stats don't really matter much nowadays, as Now we just have a lot of effect creep, and the actual effects matter a lot more than the stats, and you're only able to give 1 Aide's Ascents per unit, so you're not able to give them a lot of these stats, and this is going to be limited to +1. And Aide's Ascents is not going to be coming with your Forma unit, unlike the Ascended Floret or the Attuned skills when you get them from Binding Worlds. So that's definitely unfortunate, because again, these are not really all that high value. And the stats you get out of this is not going to be affecting the arena scoring of your unit, so it is not really calculated as part of their BST, and these stats are always going to be passed when you're going to be merging that unit, be it as the source unit or as the target merge. So these aided heroes don't really bring that much value, and these are definitely not the must summon units, but if you get more copies of them, then you could, I guess, just give the +1 stats to your favorite units. And coming back to Aided Reginn, she is a Lance Cavalier with a Vigor Wayfinder as her preferred weapon. This gives her -1 special cooldown, and she has got amazing Canto and Distant Travel +2 up to max 5, but this is only going to be from turns 1 to 4, just like original version of Reginn. And for the allies in 3 rows and 3 columns centered on her, from turns 1 to 4, she's going to be giving them +4 attack and speed in the combat, and also -1 special cooldown jump before their first attack if they have an offensive special. So again, just like a lot of modern units, Reginn is also going to be having some supportive aspect to her, and like I said, she can be run with Timerra, and it can definitely help you bypass the scowl effect. So for the units that really depend on their specials, this kind of special jumping is really good to have. And then she's able to get up to max 14 to all of her stats, depending on 5+ number of allies in that 3 row and 3 column range. So it's pretty easy to get the extra stats, as it is going to be depending on the allies. And you can also get true damage equal to 20% of her speed. So this also gives her better damage output, as she is going to be mainly nuking for her own combat. And she also gets 40% damage reduction from foes' first attacks, including the brave hits. But this kind of damage reduction is completely pierceable. And then she's got the full damage reduction piercing on her special triggers. So Aether Burst is going to be her preferred special, and she's able to completely pierce the damage reduction with it. And it is going to be scaling off based off 50% of her speed, and with her weapon it becomes a 2 cooldown special. And it also has the Hexblade effect, just like Aether Shell. And on turns 1 through 4, she's going to be getting -2 special cooldown jump before her first attack, and also before her first follow-up attack. So this allows her to easily trigger the Aether Burst without really getting stopped by stuff like, guard skills and stuff like that. And just for a safe measure, this special also gives her 40% unpierceable damage reduction, similar to that of Armored Beacon or Armored Flow. So if the unit special or if foe special is ready or triggered, then you get this. So it's a nice fallback for her, because she does come with attack speed XL, and this allows her to make sure that she's able to survive to trigger Aether Burst again on her follow-up attack. She also comes with Flow Guard 4, which is one of the better slot B skills for a lot of Cavaliers, especially if they lack null follow-up. So this is going to be a player phase option, and this also gives you the guard effect and the scowl effect, and the scowl you get out of this is unconditional. So it doesn't matter what kind of resistance you have. So again, this helps her survive. And she also has attack speed XL, which does give you the flat damage reduction, but unfortunately Reginn does not really have 4 movement like some of the other XL Cavaliers like Bridal Serena. And she also brings an amazing new skill for Flyers and Cavaliers, and this allows you to reposition an ally when you trigger your Canto. And keep in mind that this is not treated as an assist skill, which means that you could use this with Brave Felix and reposition him, and he's still going to be having his Lone Wolf active. And this is also going to be working on many of the Chroms that inflict the isolation status on themselves. And if that was not enough, this also gives you +3 to all of your stats in the combat, and also heals you up for 7 HP after the combat. So Shadow Shift 4 is a really strong skill in my opinion, especially for Aether Raids and Summoner Duels. In Summoner Duels, this does allow you to have better openers, because even if the enemy team has got Canto control, on your turn 1, you're not going to be anywhere near to them, so you can easily Canto freely, and this does help you get more of your units into the zone and threaten more of the area, so this is a big thing for that. Unfortunately, she's not an attuned or rearmed unit, so if you fodder her, she's gonna be dying, and there are actually some incredible units who want to get this, and the best Shadow Shift user in my opinion is gonna be Attuned Azura. So obviously any kind of cavalry dancer or flyer is gonna be a good user of this, but Attuned Azura is an even better option because she has got the Canto Distant Traveled as a dancer. So this allows her to have insane mobility, and it's just absurd the value that she brings. And again, she is an attuned unit, so if you're gonna be giving Shadow Shift to a unit, then this is gonna be that unit, because then you could easily fodder her and duplicate it, unlike Reginn. Attuned Azura was already a really good refresher, and this makes her significantly better in my opinion. And this could obviously be run on Attuned Peony and Realm Triandra, as both of them can also duplicate it, and they are pretty solid flying dancers. You do get the Canto one out of Firestorm Dance 3, but still it's decent, even though it's not really as insane like Attuned Azura's. So you could just go in and dance something and then reposition them to move them forward. So it helps you just offensively move your unit forward, and then you could retreat with the Canto. And you could also run this on extra action units like Rearm Lucina, Brave Crom, stuff like that. So you're going to be needing to run Speed Defense Near Trace 4 as the slot B skill, because you need to get the Canto, and you need to get a lot of Canto. So Shadow Shift 4 is amazing on action economy units, and one of them is on the banner itself, which I'm going to be talking about in a minute. And one of the better users of this is going to be TIMERRA. Obviously I'm biased because of Mercedes, but yeah, she has got Canto Distant Traveled in her weapon. She has got a lot of range and reach, so this allows you to go in and nuke something and then retreat and reposition an ally. So it's really fun, and you could also run this on Nidavellir. So he's one of the best range units to give the Shadow Shift skill to, if not the best one, because he has got the better Canto Distant Travel built into his weapon, even though it's restricted kind of like Reginn. But still, because of its reach and the Canto potential, this is a really good skill and the best lossy skill that you could run on him. And last but not least, if you have Mythic Reginn as part of your Astro Mythic core, then this is going to be a good investment, especially if you have her at plus merge and if you're going to be using her all the time. Even though she doesn't have the Canto Distant Traveled, at least she has got the fixed Canto, and this way she's able to provide more value to your Gale Force teams. And even outside Gale Force, this is still going to be helpful because of the movement utility that it gives you. So overall, Aided Reginn is a pretty good cavalry nuke, but unfortunately we've got a lot of cavalry nukes and nukes in general, but at least she's able to provide the special jumping support, and she has got a lot of Canto, so her retreat is going to be amazing. And she does have a speed super boon, which you should be prioritizing if you're able to get that IV. And of course, with Ascended Floret, attack is going to be the next best option. Emblem Celica is going to be one of the better emblems that you could run on her to get the more damage output and get the warping, because Aided Reginn doesn't really have the 4 movement like a lot of the other cavalry nukes like Brave Celeb for example. So this can definitely be a helpful thing, and you could even run Emblem Marth if you want to, and maybe Emblem Sigurd if we get him this month. And for the Sacred Seal, if you're trying to focus on the Emblem Ike matchup, then Hardy Bearing is going to be helping you. But outside of that, Attack Speed Clash is going to be a pretty good Sacred Seal, and for focusing on your player phase, Blade Session is also going to be an option. And if you're going to be giving her other skills, then you could try and run Flared Sparrow as the player phase option, giving you the pre-combat damage, and you can set up the flame tiles and then retreat. And Flow Desperation is a pretty nice option with the special jumping that she gets on her first follow-up attack, so you can almost become like a blue TIMERRA, but with the damage reduction piercing, so it's definitely one of the options that you could run at higher investment. Merrin is a Sword Cavalier, weirdly enough, and they missed on the opportunity of making her a Dagger Cavalier, which would have been pretty cool, but here she has got Suave Blade as her preferred weapon. This gives her minus some special cooldown, and if any kind of assist is used by her or on her, then she gives herself and the target ally the 50% damage reduction piercing status like Ledger Camilla, and also the bonus doubler status, which you will need to watch out for the ploy skills in something like Aether Raids, but for Summoner Duels this is definitely going to be really good. And then she gets another action after she uses a movement assist or a rally skill. So this is not like Duo Female Robin where she gets another action even if an other ally uses an assist on her, but she will be the one to do the movement assist or the rally skill to get the extra action, which is still pretty good, and she doesn't really inflict the isolation status on herself, unlike some of the other action economy units. Similar to Aided Reginn, she's also going to be getting extra stats depending on number of allies in 3 rows and 3 columns centered on her, and this can go up to max 14. She also has the full null follow-up built into this weapon, which is quite nice because she doesn't really need to run any kind of flow skills or get this outsourced, and she can get up to 15 flat damage reduction from foes' first attacks, including the brave hits. So if you want to max this out, you want to have 5 bonus status effects active on her, which is not really all that hard to do when she gives herself 3 of the bonus status, 2 from her weapon and 1 from the link skill. And then she has got speed defense link 4, which has good synergy with her extraction and also gives her the Canto 1 status, which she doesn't really have in her weapon like Reginn or any of the other units, and she will need to rely on her inedible skills to get the Canto. And then she has got even attack wave N, which can give you some extra true damage, which is helpful for nuking and also helps you heal up 5 HP in the combat. This does work out really well with her bonus doubler from her weapon because she's able to run the link skill and then get the attack buff out of this skill, and she's able to stat stack quite a bit. And she does have a speed super boon, which you should always be running, and because she is a sword cavalier, it kind of helps her have better defense compared to if she was a dagger cavalier, so I guess that is the silver lining. And you can stack up a lot of flat damage reduction on her, and she can be deceptively bulky. So Merrin is a pretty nice action economy unit, even though she's not as insane as Brave Crom. At least she's going to be better than something like Fallen Crom. And she also has the freedom of using other assist skills, so she's not locked down to just using reposition. So that can help you with the flexibility, and having the extraction can really help you in Aether Raids offense for the Gale Force teams, and also in Summoner Duels where it is going to be really important. If you're going to be building her up on a super budget, then you could try and run Fury as the slotty skill. So she doesn't really have any kind of HP threshold, so this can give her extra stats, and you already get the healing out of her slotty skill, so it's not that bad. And for the special, you could try and run Luna or even Moonbow if you're not going to be giving her any kind of other expensive special. And then attack speed clash does work out with her mobility, and if you're going to be investing a bit more into her, then attack speed clash 4 is a pretty nice slotty option, which gives you the debuff neutralization, so it does help her in the combat, and it is going to be better than a cat skill or definitely Fury 3. And if you're going to be investing even more, then this is the ideal Merrin build. So No Quarter is going to be her special, which you could try and run with Emblem Marth, and then maybe pre-charge it so that you could trigger it twice in a single round of combat. And even though she already has the 50% damage reduction piercing status, just piercing the full damage reduction is still going to be helpful, so it could be run. And then Shadow Shift 4 is the main best slotty skill for her because she's got the extra action and she can have triple reposition with this, or you could even run some other assist skill if you really want to. So this can be incredibly useful for a lot of competitive game modes, and unfortunately we don't have a lot of attune skills for the Cavaliers, so if you really want to give her any kind of attune skill, then Guard Echo is something that you could try and run. And Attack Speed XL is definitely going to be one of her better slotty options because it gives you even more flat damage reduction, which stacks up really well with her weapon, and with guard attune skills damage reduction and the guard effect, you can be quite bulky. So if you're a big Merrin fan, I cannot recommend Shadow Shift 4 enough, and it also gives you the healing just like even Attack Wave N, so you're not going to be missing out on that. You could also run her in Aether Raids offense on a Gale Force team, and I've used Fallen Crom quite a lot, and even though, he's not really all that good compared to a lot of the other Croms, the extra action can really help you. And here, with Shadow Shift, it is going to be really nice. So you could run her as a Gale Force unit. Unfortunately, it is going to be needing a bit of support with Asker, Garrick, or Panette, and of course with Emblem Marth, because she doesn't really have special charges in her weapon, and running Heavy Blade as the Sacred Seal is really painful. So you could have a 1 cooldown Gale Force with this kind of setup, and this way you're able to just go in and out pretty easily and have that action economy. Last but not least, even though I'm not the biggest fan of this kind of build, I guess Prime Skill is an option for her, because she's able to get 4 status effects by herself if you run Inside Attack Resistance, and it also buffs up all of her stats. So with the bonus doubler, it can definitely help you tank things in the enemy phase. So if you have the extra Prime Skill lying around, this is definitely going to be one of the options. but I don't really think that prime skills are all that good anymore, and I definitely prefer having attack speed excel on Merrin for the flat damage reduction stacking. Fogado is a green bow cavalier with sentinel bow as his preferred weapon. This gives him minus on special cooldown, and if he initiates combat or if the foe is ranged, then he disables any kind of foe specials, including the AoE specials, including the defensive specials like that of Duo Fiorm. So this is incredibly powerful because he himself can trigger the specials unlike Lucia while disabling the special triggers of the enemies. And this actually makes him quite bulky because a lot of units depend on their specials to get the kills, and he has got a lot of damage reduction. So he also gets extra stats in the combat depending on 5 plus 15% of his visible speed, and he also has 50% damage reduction piercing built in, so you don't really need to run him with Deadeye as curved shot is an option now, and that definitely helps with his playstyle. Null follow-up is also built into this weapon, so against the slow armors they're not going to be doubling you and you have better survival against them, and he also has 70% damage reduction on foes' first attacks, including the brave hits. Now, even though this is the pierceable damage reduction, it is still quite good with the special disabling that he's able to do. So a lot of units are simply not going to be able to kill him as they depend on their special for the damage reduction piercing, and even if they passively pierce the damage reduction, you're still going to be able to have a decent 35% damage reduction, which does help because he has got amazing damage reflection built into his weapon. So he really wants to stack up the speed and then hit extremely hard on his double, and this kind of damage reflection is going to be stacking up with a lot of the other damage reduction skills that you could try and run on him. So Fogado is a sleeper good unit out of this banner. He at least is the second best unit out of this banner in my opinion, because disabling foe specials while also having a lot of damage reduction and then damage reflection is good both offensively and defensively. And even though he doesn't have the highest defense or resistance, the things that he's able to survive is pretty amazing. And he is going to be having the weapon strangle advantage against Duo Fiorm, so that also allows you to hard counter her, and he definitely needs to stack up the speed for it, so speed super boon is going to be the main option. And then if you're going to be ascending an asset, then attack is the choice. He does come with speed defense, fortress 4, so it's a pretty nice option that gives him a bit of true damage, which helps with the nuking and also gives him the Canto movement, and this is the remaining movement, so at the bare minimum you're able to get Canto 1, and Flared Sparrow is pretty much going to be the best skill for any kind of ranged cavalry unit, so this does give you the offenses and also lets you set up the flame terrain. So in the meta that we're in right now, a lot of units depend on their specials like Emblem Ike and then Timerra in this banner itself, and then we have Shield Fighter, which allows the armors to run defensive specials, which you're completely able to ignore with Fogado, so he is definitely quite unique in that aspect, and he is going to be quite nice for Aether Raids defense and also for Summoner Duels. On a budget, you could try and give Fogado Savage Blow 3 as the slotsy skill if you're not going to be giving him Blue Feud, and the rationale behind Blue Feud is that he is already made to hard counter Duo Fiorm, and Blue Feud allows you to double down on that and even counter the highly merged Fiorms and ignore their any kind of support, and mainly ignore Breath of Life 4 support that they might be getting. So this is a really good slotsy option, and it's not really all that hard to get because Tina is available in the Divine Codes, and we have also got Thief Cat with Blue Feud in the Limited Ephemerate manuals. So this is definitely one of the better skills that you could run on him at lower investment, and if you have the means then you could try and run Deadeye, but I would say that the best special for him is hands down Curve Shot, and he's easily one of the best Curve Shot archers in the entire game because he has got that damage reflection, and Curve Shot gives you the unpierceable damage reduction. So it is extremely good with his game plan, and if you're going to be getting this from Brave Bernie, then you could also get Assassin Strike as the slot B skill, which can give you the pre-combat damage, and you can stack that up with Flared Sparrow, and you also get true damage out of it, which does help him offensively. And for slot C at higher investment, I feel like you could try and run Inside Attack Speed because, like I said, doubling is extremely important with the damage reflection that he has got, so this helps you with that in the player phase. And you could even run Fatal Smoke 4 if you want to. but I definitely prefer inside attack speed. And if nothing else, Blue Feud is always going to be the option. And you could try and run Fortress Echo as the attune skill. Fleeting Echo is also an option if you want to stack up the damage reduction, but it only gives you 6 extra damage reduction as he already has a lot of damage reduction in his weapon. So it is going to be diminishing returns, and I kind of like Fortress Echo more because you're able to run Assassin Strike in the slot B, and then you could get the Canto out of the attune skill and also get a bit of true damage. Emblem Ike also weirdly works out for him, which is not the case for a lot of the nukes because it does give him the unpierceable damage reduction, and I don't think we have any better Emblem units right now that he could run. Emblem Celica could also be run for the warping, but I do like Emblem Ike a bit more with Curved Shot. Pandreo unfortunately gets the short end of the stick because not only he's a reward and instant demote unit that is going to be taking you a lot of luck to plus and merge, but he also doesn't have a preferred weapon, and he's an infantry healer and we have got a lot of them. So he has got Respite Plus as his staff, which we already had on Princess Nina, so it isn't even like a new weapon, even for an inhittable staff. So yeah, this is going to be giving you the Drive Guard, which is decent on budget, but for high investment, you definitely want to run some other staffs. And then he has got Defense Stress Finish, which is good for the bridge fodder. And looking at his stat spread, he has got a lot of resistance, and it also has a super boon, so you definitely want to be going with that if you're going to be spending a Floret on him. And unfortunately, he doesn't really have the highest speed compared to the other, demote infantry staff units, because we have got Yulia with 56 speed at max investment, and then Sol with 54, and then we've got Pandreo at 48, so it's not really all that much compared to these units, but he does try to double down on his resistance, and there are definitely tools for it, like Dazzling Discord and the Ploy skills, which you can make use of. So it's not that it is wasted, but if you're trying to function offensively, then speed is also really, really important. But he does have the resistance similar to that of young Lucius on base. So again, you could try and make use of those kinds of skills, and everyone is going to be getting 2 copies of him at 5-star from the quest. So at least he could be used for the engaged limited battles. And in that case, you could try and replace his slotty skill with attack resistance form, give him the Wrathful Staff Refine, and then run Dazzling Staff in the slot B. And you could double down on the support with Respite Plus by running Distant Guard as the Sacred Seal. But if you're going to be investing a bit more into him, and if you don't have Rearmed Hortensia, then this is a build you could try and run with Divine Codes. So you could get Sunlight Plus from Yulia, and this is basically the non-seasonal version of Seaside Parasol. So this allows you to inflict the guard effect on your enemies and also gives you a good amount of offenses. So this can definitely be the best weapon for him if you don't have Arcane Charmer. And you could also try and get all of the skills from Tina from the Divine Codes. So you could get Nudge, Holy Pressure, Attack Speed Ideal, Wrathful Tempo, and Infantry Pulse 4 all at the same time. So this could be the lower budget build if you don't have the other fodder available. And you could definitely try and run some other slotty and slotsy skills, namely a Finish skill and a Ploy skill. And for his assist, Magic Shield Plus is going to be an amazing option and the best option to get the extraction and also provide even more support to your allies. And then Arcane Charmer is the only arcane staff that we have got. So you could run Glitter of Light with Emblem Marth and have it as a 1 cooldown special. And then with Time Pulse Echo, you're able to pre-charge it and trigger it twice in a single round of combat because of having the tempo effect out of Wrathful Tempo. And Attack Speed Finish also gives you the true damage and the healing. And Attack Speed Ploy, or any kind of Ploy skill for that matter, is going to be ideal for him because he has a lot of resistance and you might as well make the full use out of it. And if you want to make the full use out of it and go all the way, then this kind of utility build can be something that you could try and look into. So instead of running Arcane Charmer, you're going to be running Sunlight Plus, which inflicts the guard status on the enemies, and then you could inflict the panic status with Holy Panic and pre-charge it with Time Pulse Echo and Emblem Marth. And for slot, you could run Crystalline Water to give him more visible resistance and get the cleansing for your attack and resistance. And then Dazzling Discord becomes a pretty nice option because it does check the resistance for applying the Discord status on the enemies. So you could double down on the status infliction with that, and also the Ploy skill obviously. So if you want to inflict a lot of negative status effects on the enemies, then this is going to be the build for you. And finally, at max investment, I guess you could try and run Lagu's Friend 4 on him because he's an infantry unit, but it's extremely important to keep in mind that you run Rehabilitate as the assist skill and the regular non-plus version of Rehabilitate, because it gives you the special cooldown penalty which makes Glitter of Light into a 3 cooldown special. And with Lagu's Friend, you need your offensive specials to be 3 cooldown or more. So it's extremely important that you keep this in mind when you're going to be running him with Arcane Charmer, and you're able to get the healing out of it, provide some support, and also be tanky with his high resistance. So he's able to get the flat damage reduction out of Lagu's Friend and also get more true damage and the full damage reduction piercing, which a lot of healers are not going to be having access to. And close bonus doubler could also be run even though he doesn't have the highest defense. Still, because of the flat damage reduction, he's going to be able to tank more melee enemies than what it might seem at first. And for the slot C, you always want to have a ploy skill, and then Time Pulse Echo is going to be good so that you could run this with Emblem and get even more unpierceable damage reduction. I want to thank all of my team members for their constant support, and you can click the link on his stream right now to check out my review of the amazing Grand Tour battle unit out of this batch in Marnie, and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because I wish YouTube sub boxes were as insane as Shadow Shift on Attuned Timerra. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.